Hey, in this video I'm going to explain the concept of hysteresis and in particular the role it plays in puzzles like this one. In fact, this puzzle, designed by Oskar van Deventer, is called the hysteresis key. It looks really simple. We just take this key and we push it in, and then the goal is that we have to pull it out again. But although it went in easily, when I try and pull it out, this arm moves and we get blocked. You can see this red pin here gets caught on some of these pieces of plastic. And this is an example of hysteresis. So what is hysteresis? Well, I've seen it defined a few different ways, but the one I think is perhaps most helpful here is that you do an action and then you do the opposite action, you don't get back to where you started. So, for example, if I take a Rubik's Cube and I do a turn, and then I do the opposite turn, I end up back where I started. And this is true in almost all Rubik's Cube type puzzles, and true in most situations in life. But there are some examples where it isn't true. So, for example, this is a 3D printed puzzle called Shifty by CoreMods, which you can get from Etsy. And if I slide the top layer to the left, so this is one move, and then I slide the top layer back to the right, that's the second move, I don't end up back where I started because this ball has moved. And in fact, it turns out it's almost impossible to get this back into the starting state just from having done that one simple move. If you just rely on moves like this, left and right. So that's another example of hysteresis. I just want to give you one more example of hysteresis, which you probably encounter often in life, probably without realizing it. So you may have a thermostat controlling the temperature in your house. So you set the thermostat to a temperature, let's say 20 degrees, and that means if the temperature goes above 20 degrees, that means the house is warm enough and so the heating can turn off. And if the temperature goes below 20 degrees, it means the house is too cold and the heating needs to be turned on. But if you think about it, if that was how thermostats worked and the temperature was close to 20 degrees, the heating would be turning on and off all the time as the temperature bounced around just above and below 20 degrees. So hysteresis gets built into these thermostats, and that means, for example, that the heating will turn on when the temperature goes below 19 degrees, and the heating will turn off when the temperature goes above 21 degrees. So you can probably see the connection between this form of hysteresis and the puzzles that we're looking at here. If we consider the heating of the house to be an action, we heat it up from 20 degrees to 21 degrees, the heating switches off. But now if we reduce the temperature of the house back to 20 degrees, the heating stays off. So we do the opposite action, but we don't go back to the original state. The word hysteresis actually comes from the ancient Greek word Hysteresis, which means lagging behind. So we can also think of this thermostat as lagging behind the change in the temperature. So you might think that the heating would come on when the thermostat dropped to 20 degrees, but it actually waits a bit and comes on at 19. And this idea is used in all kinds of systems to avoid undesirable behavior. Lots of buttons use it so that when you press them, they send just a single press rather than generating lots of presses, for example. But let's come back to Oskar's puzzle. What is going on here? Well, as with the Shifty puzzle, if we do one action, putting the key in, and then we do the opposite action, pulling it out, we don't end up where we started. And that's the key to solving it. So we've pushed the key in and we have this little red pin which gets caught on these slopey areas of plastic. And those slopey areas of plastic make up a maze that we have to navigate using this red pin, just with the actions of pushing the key in and out. And so you can see, for example, I can get past this obstacle by pushing this in that way, and the pin gets pushed upwards by this slope, so that now when I come back, I slide past, and now I get caught in another place. And those are actually the first couple of steps in the solution to this puzzle. So I'll just finish solving it for you. I'll show you what happens. So we're going to go down here. I'm going to come back and go down a little bit further so that we can make our way under here. Now we're going to go over that bit and down there, and then this way. Now this way, and that gets us right down to the very bottom, but we can't stay on the very bottom because we have this little peak here, and there's no way to make this pin go down at this point, so we have to come up here, but then we can go down that way, and then we can go down on the back side of that slope, and then we're basically done. So that's how you solve Oskar's hysteresis key. The original versions of this puzzle were not transparent. You ended up with something like this, which is exactly the same puzzle, but you can't see through. This one was printed with transparent PLA. This one obviously is not transparent, which I suspect is almost impossible to solve unless you draw out a picture of the map and make careful to understand exactly where the pin is in there. It's certainly very difficult to solve. So there we are. That's Oskar's hysteresis key. If you hadn't come across hysteresis before, look out for it in your daily life. You'll probably be surprised at how often it comes up. And you may also find yourself noticing situations where hysteresis would improve some kind of experience. Look for these kinds of things in user interfaces on apps, on your laptop or phone, for example. And if you want to know more about this puzzle, which I think is a nice example of hysteresis, then check out the video that I'll put here when it's ready. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.